Hi, I'm John. This is my show, A Sports Reckoning. So, I'm going to talk about my story that Michael Jackson is the love child of Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson. And one of the things that I want to stress to people about, reasons why I'm so mad and stuff and why I yell so much at people and stuff is because there's this thing going on, right? That I have this story, I know I'm right, I know I've got the evidence to prove it and explain it, and it's a phenomenal story. And the story is spreading and stuff, but it's still in its own way, it's kind of slow and stuff, right? I mean, the story's got a lot of attention to it. It's got worldwide attention. There's a lot of people out there that have heard the story. And it's actually beyond me now. It's one of those things that this story actually has a life of its own. It exists out there. It's doing things out there. People are talking about it. And the people out there are talking about it. It's funny because they don't even know who I am. That's how big the story has actually gotten and stuff, right? There's actually people out there talking about it. But the problem is this story has real detailed. It's a really detailed story. And the people that are out there telling the story, they don't have the information I have. And at some point, they always fuck it up. They fuck up little parts of it and stuff, right? And then when they get challenged, they haven't had to deal with the experiences of what I've had to do. So when they get challenged by Michael Jackson fans or whatever, they don't know how to deal with those challenges. And they're easily overwhelmed and stuff, right? But that doesn't happen to me because I've dealt with the Michael Jackson community. And I've shut them all down. They all come at me. Anything they come at me, I hit them back with hard evidence and stuff. I re-explain everything to them. But then what happens, instead of them they don't ever acknowledge, okay, this is something maybe, right? They just ignore me. And that's this big thing where everybody says, they put a label oh, you're negative, right? Oh, you're lying. They'll all create some kind of fucking stupid label which allows them to completely ignore what I'm doing and dismiss me, and they won't deal with it, right? And this is the problem within the sports car community. One of the things that I hate is these people, they do that negative label stuff. And it's dude, it's not that the shit's negative. The reality of the situation is you people cannot deal with what the fuck I'm doing. Right? And then so you're just looking for a way out. You're looking for a way out. And then it's I scream at people, and what you don't know is that my story is so big, I don't want to be absorbed and rushed into Hollywood and stuff, right? I don't want to be an instant celebrity. I'm not going to allow that to happen. You're not going to see me on Jimmy Kimmel doing interviews and laughing it up with the stars and the celebrities. I'm just not going to do that, right? I don't want to be that person and stuff. And so what protects me from, because I know that the whirlwind of what can happen when the media comes and my story does break, they can whisk me up and turn me into a big star and stuff, and they'll start bathing me with all this glory and stuff and start giving me all the money and this fucking beautiful women and all this stuff, and I understand the trap of what that is, right? I don't want to be trapped in that. So the only way that I know how to stop that from happening, because I'm not I'm susceptible to temptations and shit, right? I could be wisped up and think, oh, this is a good life, man. I should have been doing this the whole time, right? But I know that I don't want to do that. So I know that if I curse at people and I fucking insult the integrity of a lot of the establishment of this system, I know that if I do that, then they're not going to be so quick to bring me into their realm, because if they bring me in, I'm not under their control, and I'll start denouncing them and I'll start asking them questions that they don't want to answer and shit, right? So, and that's kind of part of the reason maybe that the story hasn't been broke and stuff, hasn't been accepted, because they're kind of scared of me, because so there's a lot of shit, there's just a lot of shit. But the big picture is that the reason why, that's part of the reason I scream at people too, but the other thing why I scream at people is because Smokey Robinson and Diana Ross, they're still alive. And it's I don't want you to trust me. I can only give you so much of the information and stuff, right? The integral facts and the small details about what actually took place in this is going to be far better explained by Smokey Robinson and Diana Ross. Okay, my explanation can only be so good, right? I've only got so many facts and evidence, and I can lay down the foundation and I can back it up to show you that I know this is right. I'm standing on a solid foundation and I've got solid evidence to stand upon, but their story is the one that needs to be heard. I'm not. That's what I'm saying. It's like I'm not trying to be a YouTuber here, trying to do this and not let Smokey and Diana tell their story. No, I want them to tell their story. But they are of the age that's old enough that they could die. You know, it's like a lot of these people from like Smokey's band, they're dying. Diana, she's the last member of the Supremes, the original Supremes and shit, right? They fucking passed away and shit, right? It's like these people could die. And it's like, that's where like the Michael Jackson community, man, I was so fucking mad at that Michael Jackson community. It's like, you dumb motherfuckers, we can have a chance to have Michael Jackson's real life story explained by his real fucking parents. The people who gave birth to him and abandoned him and then brought him back into Motown. There he was at Motown. And here's his parents waiting for him at Motown. The whole story, all of it. I mean, there's so much there. We can actually hear it from the horse's mouth. Diana and Smokey are still alive. And then when people, they act like this is like personally, like I'm directly speaking to Flippin' Steve. Every fucking single time that you don't fucking stand up, Flippin' Steve, and tell people this fucking story is interesting, I believe in it to a point where I'm willing to even invest some of my money in these cards that I think this fucking shit's interesting. And you need to stand up and tell people this is fucking happening, and it's happening to a person that's here in our fucking community. And it's like, but Flippin' Steve, he's so much more trying to be such a buddies with these other fucking sports card influencers and shit, right? Because he's afraid of the value of his sports cards, but I know inside he's not really afraid of the value of sports cards. That's why I get pissed off. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? I see enough of you to know that you're a real fucking dude. And you've got your own money, and you can go play sports card fucking dealer no matter, regardless of what your relationship is with me, regardless of what your fucking part in playing this, in the story of fucking exposing the story, regardless of any of that shit, you still get to go play sports card dealer. You still can acquire the sports cards of what you want. You can still sell them for a profit. It doesn't affect any of that. But you do get to be a part of it. But if you do like support my story and help expose it, you get to be a part of something big, a historical event. Like, I'm offering you a chance to be part of a fucking historical event, but you won't fucking participate in that because you're worried that it might offend fucking Neo or fucking Dustin or Dakota. You won't be able to fucking sell your cards to fucking Steve Aoki and shit? Is that what you're afraid of? You think that fucking Steve Aoki is going to look down upon you for having participated in the exposing of the true identity of Michael Jackson and his real parents and shit? No, Steve Aoki is going to be like, oh, dude, Flippin', I heard that story first from Flippin' Steve and shit. Now you're part of the story, of the eternal fucking legend of exposing the story. When Steve Aoki, if he had heard you fucking saying it, then Steve Aoki, the first person he would acknowledge is where the story came from. He would be talking about Flippin' Steve. I'm giving you guys opportunities beyond opportunities. Incredibly valuable life experiences and shit. And I still fucking get treated like I'm fucking some dirtball out here just yelling at people because I got nothing better to fucking do. Like I said, I'm fucking just like frustrated as fuck, man. The people are so fucking dumb and won't fucking help. They don't help shit. And you're gonna sit out there, all you dumb motherfuckers, and actually act like you think you're fucking good human beings? When a person like me comes in here with serious fucking shit and I ask for the littlest bit of help. Like, just the other day on Dakota's live stream, right? On Sports Cards Anonymous, he had his live stream, right? And he was talking about that the fact that in this community, it is still a form of a small community, and he has access to people that he doesn't think he should have access to and stuff for being a small YouTuber, but he has access to people that are heads of these companies and shit, right? And that's the part of, one of the things is like, it's why they won't talk to me, because they know as soon as they start to talk about this, the story will spread, instantly run through this community, and it'll get to the people that I fucking know that are actually interested in this fucking story. The people that actually understand the importance of this story, it'll instantly fucking get into their ears. And like, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying any way I can to get it into the fucking ears of people that this is fucking happening right here in this fucking community. And see, here's the part too. It's like, when my story breaks, I'm going to speak, but like, you have no idea how bad I'm going to speak about fucking like the Michael Jackson community. I'm going to speak, there's parts like, I don't want to speak bad about black people, but I have to speak bad about parts of the black, because you don't know, like this page I have that's a sports reckoning, it was under different names and stuff. This page has existed, it's had different lives and shit. One of the lives of where I went before I came into the sports car community, I was in the black community, what would be the black hip-hop community and stuff, in YouTube and stuff, right? And so there's like people, most of the people here, you listen to me, you won't know, you don't know who Sinetta is, right? Okay, so, but Sinetta knows who the fuck I am and shit, and he rejects me. Fucking somebody like Hassan Campbell out there fucking rejects me. There's motherfuckers, Tommy Sotomayor, like all those motherfuckers, they all rejected me and shit, and they fucking attacked me, they're fucking disgusting. So I get to speak up and talk about fucking how lame the black community was when I approached them and tried to explain the true story about Michael Jackson's real birth parents, his family lineage, and showed them evidence. They didn't give a fuck about it. And then I have all the black people that come at me and stuff, and they keep yelling at me, Michael has to be part of the Jackson family because they all look alike. And it's like, I'm white, and here I am dealing with people coming at me, telling me I can't be right because Michael looks like, he's saying, what they're basically saying is that they're saying all black people look alike. That Michael, they all look alike. I can't, I've heard that 1,000 fucking times and shit, right? So it's like I have to tell the truth about my experiences and stuff, and that stuff has to come, it's going to come out and shit, right? So now when you talk about the sports car community, now if my story breaks throughout the sports car community, if the people in the sports car community help me, well then I'm going to speak highly, I'm going to uplift the sports car community. I could be beneficial to everybody in the sports car community. Everybody. My interpretation of my experience of which I had through the sports car community could increase, and it could bring people into the sports car community. But if my story breaks with having the current experience of what I'm having from the sports car community, I'm going to talk bad about the sport. I'm going to fucking say, what losers. They got pedophiles running around in there, fucking major scammers and thieves. That's all that runs in the sports car community. What a bunch of fucking losers and shit. Okay, and so is that going to be beneficial to the sports car community? Like I said, this is not a threat. This is a guaranteed. All I can do is speak about my real life experience. If my real life experience ends up evolving as the way it is through the sports car community, boy, I'm going to trash the entire fucking community. I'm going to fucking tell people Josh Luber, Gary Vee, fucking scammers. They look down upon the whole people in the community. They look like them as fools. They treat them like fucking slaves. That's how I'm going to talk about the community. And I'm going to say, but they uplift people like Jimmy's Kentucky Roadshow, who appears to be having a fucking fondness for young boys and shit and likes to touch them. It appears to be that he's a pedophile. And they join all up with him. They all support him. They uplift him. Everybody's buddy with him. You know, so I'm going to talk bad about this fucking community. And the only way that could be saved to stop me from talking that way is that if I get some people within the sports car community to help spread my story, and if that ends up being the fucking source of which breaks my story to a larger group, gets me the fucking attention, the right fucking outlet to break the story, then I'll talk better about the sports car community. But this is where we're at and shit. I've already had so much bad experiences. It's like, boy, you guys really need to fucking step up and do some good shit to stop all the negative experience of what I fucking have had and shit, right? So now, let me just hit you with some facts. The real fucking story. My story with investigating, it started about 6 months after Michael Jackson had died. And it specifically, it happened because Michael Jackson died. Specifically, I started watching the Turner Classic Movie Channel because when Michael Jackson passed away, the way that I internally dealt with that, because I was a Michael Jackson fan. I'm not like a super fanatic and shit, right? I'm not like that. But you know, I was in, my first concert is the Jackson Victory Tour, you know. I won tickets on the radio in Los Angeles on the KKHR. It's a funny story and shit. It's a good story. There was a place called, there was a radio record shop back in the day called Licorice Pizza. And so at Licorice Pizza, there was one by my house, and it's like one of those things as the Michael Jackson fans that you hear, oh, they're giving away tickets on KKHR, and then the people say, yeah, over at Licorice Pizza, they have these full-size bumper stickers, nice KKHR bumper stickers, right? And you could go into Licorice Pizza, and they had stacks of them, and on the back of the bumper sticker was an entry form to the KKHR contest that they were giving away free tickets to the Michael Jackson concert, right? So, like, I literally had hundreds of those bumper stickers. Like, there's so many funny stories. Like, I'll just tell you one of the funny stories as kids. One time we went to a house. I just pick random houses, do stupid shit when I was a kid, stupid shit, right? But we went to a house. It was actually a little apartment building, so the car was parked down in the garage. And we took a stack of those KKHR bumper stickers. We went to a car that was parked in the garage of the apartment and shit. And we covered all the windows with KKHR bumper stickers. The front, sides, the back windows, completely. That's how many of these bumper stickers I had. Like I said, I had hundreds of them and shit, right? So we covered the windows of this car with KKHR bumper stickers. Like, so imagine if you're like that person and you came down, right? You're going to work probably that morning, right? You come down to your car, and the car's all your windows are completely covered with KKHR bumper stickers. Right? I mean, that's funny fucking shit. That's hilarious. I mean, it's fucked up for the those bumper stickers. Like, the next morning, I remember we went over there was just bumper stickers all over the ground. The person just ripped them off and fucking just threw them on the ground. They probably had to go to work, which is fucked up. When I'm a kid, I think about stupid things I did that was fucked up and shit, right? But it's also fucking hilarious, and it's like we didn't really do any damage, but you never know. That person could have been late. I mean, it's the kind of shit that you do when you're a kid when you don't really understand and shit, right? By delaying people, what kind of problems you can actually cause and shit, right? So I think it's super funny, though. It's like one of those things. I just hope I didn't really affect that person's life, but it's one of those fucking funny things I did. But so, those bumper stickers, I ended up sending in like 30 to 50 of them and shit, right? I sent in like 30 to 50. And then there was one day I'm coming home, my friend that lived across the street, his family was, his mom was getting ready to move to Palm Springs. She was always going to Palm Springs. They eventually moved out there. And, so on the weekends, I would go with him once in a while. We'd go with him, we'd go to Palm Springs and shit. And so this one time, I'm coming home from Palm Springs, right? And I'm literally walking across the street. I'm coming up to, we lived in an apartment there. And so I'm coming up to the apartment, and I see my sister. We lived on the second floor, so she's barreling down the stairs. I'm walking up, and I see my sister barreling down the stairs, and she was going to run back to the garage to go get my uncle because her friend had just called and said that he had heard my name called on the radio. What had happened for the KKHR to get the tickets for the concert, they would call your name on the radio, and you had like 30 minutes to call in and shit, and then you would win tickets for the shit, right? So one of my sister's friends heard my name called on the radio. He called my sister, and my sister tried calling in, but she couldn't. They wouldn't give it to her and shit, right? Because she was a girl. Obviously, they knew it wasn't me. So then, like I said, then she was going to run down to go get my uncle to have him act like he was me, right? So as she's running down the stairs, I'm walking up. I'm just coming home from Palm Springs, and she comes down, and then she sees me, and she's like, Johnny, they just called your name on the radio for the Michael Jackson, right? So I just dropped my bag. I remember just dropping my bag and running upstairs, and I called in, and it was busy. I think it was busy twice, right? And then like the third time I got in, and the people are like, man, you just made it and shit, right? You just got it. It was like almost the 30 minutes was almost up. They're like, you just made it. So I won tickets to the concert. So that's how I got the tickets, and that's my first concert. I got to go to the Jackson's Victory Tour at Dodger Stadium and shit, right? And so that's what I'm saying. Like I'm saying, I got my Michael Jackson stories. I'm a lifelong Michael Jackson fan. There's stories I have as being like I said, I'm a Michael Jackson fan and shit, right? So when Michael Jackson passed away, it affected me and shit, right? So I started watching the Turner Classic Movie Channel. And it was specifically because I knew Michael Jackson had a fondness for like the classic movie, cinema and stuff, right? And so I started watching the movies because it kind of gave me a connection to like him in a weird way. There was a thing there. That's why I started watching. Michael died. The reason I started watching Turner Classic Movie was because of him. It was specifically because of him. And then like 6 months after that, I told my mom I was watching all these old movies, and I would be telling her about it. It was really cool because she knew a lot about the stars, and so when I would talk about the older stars, and then she would tell me other stories, and I thought that was really fucking cool, right? And so then she calls me and she tells me, there's a movie coming on, Lady Sings the Blues, which is Diana Ross's first movie and stuff. And so she had, at this time, I don't know anything about, I still am not thinking Diana Ross is Michael Jackson's mom. My mom told me that just specifically, and this is the thing, because Michael and Diana were so close, there was such a thing like that where even my mom knew it, and so my mom told me watch Lady Sings the Blues, because Diana Ross was starring in that, right? This is how it happened and shit, right? That's what I'm saying, these weird events, if none of these things happen and stuff, if I'm not there at that exact moment, I don't have the vision thing that happened and stuff, right? And so my mom told me watch Lady Sings the Blues, and so I watched it, right? And so I'm watching Lady Sings the Blues, and then as I'm watching it, because it's a younger Diana Ross, and like I said, I already know about the Michael Jackson Diana Ross, that there's the history, there's all this stuff, and I'm watching the movie, and what actually happened, Diana Ross was singing, and in the movie, I'm watching the movie, there's Diana Ross, but Diana Ross like morphed into Michael Jackson. This is what actually happened to me, right? This is how it actually happened. So I'm watching the movie, and I'm watching Diana Ross, and then all of a sudden, I wasn't seeing Diana Ross anymore. I was literally seeing Michael Jackson. And I was like, whoa, what the hell is that? I was like, what's that, right? But then I was probably like laying down, and I kind of like sat up, right? Where it was like, okay, is this just something messing with my eyes? What the fuck is this, right? I kind of sat up and even like rubbed my eyes and looked at it again, because usually if you see a little something fuzz, if it's like a little fuzzy because your eyes are playing a little trick and stuff, usually you do that, usually it'll go away and stuff, right? But I sat up and like rubbed my eyes and looked at it and stuff, and it kept doing it. It kept doing it. I was like looking at Diana, but I was literally, like I can't like overemphasize, I literally was seeing Michael Jackson. And so then I was looking at that, and I was like, that's when I asked the question. And this is how the whole fucking thing started. Just because of that, then I saw that, and then it got me to ask the question. Hey, wait, could Diana, because I'm like, why is that doing that? What the fuck is, why am I seeing that like that, right? And then so, but then I what it did is it got me to realize that Diana and Michael look alike in a weird way. There's something about them that they really, really look alike. This was like a whole other level. It was like their mannerisms and their body, their whole physique. It was like all of it, right? Because I saw it like that, I asked the question, wait, could Diana Ross be Michael Jackson's mom? Is that even possible? Right? So that's how my whole investigation starts, right? So at that moment, I don't know anything about Smokey Robinson. I don't even know at that moment, I don't know how old Diana Ross is. Like, how old would she have been when this took place, right? I know nothing about any of that stuff. I haven't done the investigation. Like, I don't have that kind of I didn't have that kind of knowledge about what was going on, right? So then I watched the movie, and then at that time in my life, I had a computer. I happened to have a computer. I'd probably gotten it not too long before that and stuff, right? And now without the computer, I never could have done this investigation, because the question, I wouldn't have been answered so easily. I couldn't have kept searching and stuff, right? The rabbit hole would have closed quick, and I just would have been shut out, and I just would have went about my days, and I wouldn't have investigated. If I didn't investigate, then it wouldn't have kept me going. But I happen to have a computer. That's what I'm saying is, like, it's one of these things about the timing of how the events happened and occurred, and me being the person I was, and then it happening and me seeing it. It's like it was like one of those things. It's like it happened to the right person at the right time, and I was able to go do the investigation. I asked the question, because that's the whole thing. What I tell people is, you've got to ask the first question. If you can't ask the first question, can Diana Ross be Michael Jackson's mother? If you can't even ask that fucking question, how are you ever going to understand anything of what I'm doing and shit, right? So that's where it all starts. You've got to first get to the point where you can even ask the question, because Michael's part of a Jackson. He's raised in the Jackson house. We know that. You know, they're the Jackson 5. They put them all in the same outfits and the afro, so everybody thought they all looked alike, and everybody thinks that Janet looks like Michael. But when you break it down, you look at it again, first of all, you see that no, the resemblance is not really there. There's a resemblance, but it's only because we were born thinking that. Our whole lives, of course we thought they looked alike, because that's what we saw our whole fucking lives. So the mind chooses to see what the mind sees what it chooses to see and stuff, right? That's what they showed us, and that's how it affected us. But once I started looking at it again, it's like, oh, now I see that Michael is totally, it's his real parents that he actually looks like, and Janet is just one that kind of looked like him and stuff. But when you break it down, it's like, well, look at it more, and you see that Janet doesn't have the talent. She's not really talented, and people are confused. They don't actually understand. Like the Terry Lewis and Jimmy Jam, they were the ones who wrote all of Janet's songs. They made all the music. It's them. They just got some hot piece of ass. That's all they were looking for. A hot piece of ass with the name the Jackson, and they made her Janet Jackson. She doesn't have any talent. She's really not talented. So she gets all this credit for being like a big star, but it's like she's not this artist. She's not the artist. Michael's actually an artist. He writes his songs. He's a real dancer. He's a real singer. Michael's a legit artist. He's a total different thing. So now when I see the differences, it's like I don't see them all, Michael looking like the Jacksons anymore. I just don't see that. I see Michael looking like his real parents, Diana Ross and Smokey Robinson, okay? So when I started doing my investigation, if my story was not true, I should not have been able to find the evidence. It would not have been there, right? So when I went to look for the evidence, the first thing I look up and I find Diana Ross's age, and I see that she's only 14 years old at the time where Michael's born and shit, right? And she's not even 14 when he actually was conceived, right? She's 13, late 13. And it's like, so right there, the first piece of evidence I looked at, that looked like a negative thing to me. When I first saw it, I'm like, oh shit, Diana's only 14. What's the chances, you know? I'm like, that's most likely you're thinking, no, it's not true. But that ends up being the whole reason for everything. It's because she was so young, and then that ends up being the reason for all of this stuff, right? So let me get into, let me show you some of the evidence. Let me show you the things. And so, like this one right here, what I say is, this interview of what she's saying here, it should not even exist. She should never ever be speaking about this. And now this is on Arsenio Hall in 1991, right? So she should not be talking about what she's saying when she's talking about her first love and she's talking about Smokey Robinson, but the age of what she's talking about, she's 14 or earlier and shit, right? That's what she's actually talking about. And she's actually talking about sleeping in Smokey Robinson's house, that she gave this information out. Why would she ever even give this information? That's what I'm saying. When I went to look for like Diana Ross being Michael Jackson's mother, what was the chances I was going to find out that at the age of where she was when Michael was conceived, what was the chances I was going to find out that at that young age she's in love with Smokey Robinson and she's actually sleeping the night over in his house? That she, why would I, that's what I'm saying. My story, I didn't create this stuff. I went and looked for it, and this is the stuff I found. But it only reason I found it and was able to understand what I was seeing is because I had the thought, could she be his mother? And then if she's his mother, well, I have to find out the moments of where these things occurred. I have to find evidence to prove what it is. So let's start with this one and listen to what she says here.
But who was your first love, though? Yeah, who was that?
You mean,
that
are you
first guy
talking
you kissed
about man?
behind?
Are you talking about man love?
Oh, yeah, I should have specified that. I'm sorry.
Smokey Robinson was my first love. I really loved him. You know, I have stories. People think my life or my career started with Motown, but really it started with Smokey. Smokey lived on Belmont. We lived on the same street. Mm-hmm. I was very close with his cousin, Sharon Burston. Mm-hmm. And I used to sleep over. You know, I kids had sleepovers at Sharon's house, and I used to listen to the Miracles sing in the basement. And that was before I came to Motown. That was before the Supremes. And to me, I loved him. Because there was a time where when I first heard his record on the radio and I realized that you might be able to sing and make a record, I mean, it was like major time. So I think maybe first love of maybe with Smokey.
Okay, so it's like the information that she just gave there, real detailed facts about how she was in love with Smokey, how she's best friends with Smokey's, she says niece, I think, but it's his cousin, Sharon Burston. She said cousin, it's actually his niece, okay? And she tells you how she's able to sleep over in his house at that exact time, and then she says, and I heard his song on the radio, and I realized that you could actually make a record, which it pins down the whole, what's actually taking place is, what she's talking about here is at the time of where Michael got conceived. And so now, that's what this is. I want you to see that, let me roll this up here. And so it says, okay, so let me just read this to you. It says here, among the early career distinctions of William Smokey Robinson, born in the North End area of Detroit on February 19, 1940, was the fact that his first single with the Miracles was released on the very day he turned 18. Robinson's fateful meeting with Berry Gordy in 1957 started a lifelong friendship. Let me finish. Okay. Planted the let me start. Robinson's fateful meeting with Berry Gordy Jr. in 1957 started a lifetime friendship and planted the seed of the Motown legend. Then Berry set about helping Smokey and the group of young hopefuls that he fronted, newly renamed the Miracles, to their first record deal. It was with End Records, okay? And on Smokey's 18th birthday in 1958, their debut single was issued. Okay, so they're telling you right there that Smokey's first song, it's a song called Got a Job, and it shows you that it was released on End Records. Okay, so it's Berry who helped him, and what the big parts of what to show you is that Berry does not have Motown. There is no Motown. Berry doesn't even have like his own record company. He's just like trying to figure out how to do it, and it was Smokey that he ended up developing that whole thing with, is because the relationship he had with Smokey. So right here at the time he meets Berry Gordy, it's August of 1957 that he meets Berry Gordy. Okay, so Michael Jackson is born in August of 1958. So a few months after Smokey Robinson meets Berry Gordy, a few months after that, Michael Jackson's conceived. Okay, these are just facts, simple facts. And what do we have is that Diana Ross is telling you at that exact time, because she told you, I heard his song on the record and I realized you could make a record and be on the radio, which is February of 1958. Okay, so Diana's already pregnant at that time. She's pregnant at the time. She saw Smokey hook up with Berry, right? And then she's sleeping over in the house, but she can't be Smokey's girlfriend because Smokey's girlfriend, Claudette, is in the band The Miracles. Okay, but she's got to go home at night. Claudette would go home, but Diana's sleeping the night in the house. And there's other part I'm going to come up here to show you that Diana moved. It says Diana moved away from that street, that Belmont that they lived on, that street where she could sleep in the house and stuff, because she lived just a few doors down from Smokey, right? She moved away from that house on her 14th birthday in 1958, which is March 26th. So a month after Smokey's song is on the radio, Diana is moving away from that neighborhood. And what I've come to think of, what I think about now is like, okay, so Diana knew she was moving out of the neighborhood too. She also knew that her family must have been talking about moving away, talking about selling the house and stuff. They were going to move. Those conversations had to be taking place. So Diana, she sees Smokey hook up with them, and she's like in love with Smokey, but she's about to move out of the neighborhood. She can't be Smokey's girlfriend. Then what she do? She sleeps with him. She gets pregnant. This is what happened. She got pregnant, right? So this is Berry Gordy. This is Berry Gordy's book. You can go listen to his audiobook. It's here in YouTube. You can listen to it for free. So this is Berry Gordy talking about meeting Smokey Robinson.
As important as my association was with Jackie Wilson, an even greater one began in late '57. I was in the office of Jackie's new manager, Nat Tarnopole, working on some lyrics when a group calling themselves the Matadors came in to audition for him. I watched while the group singing their hearts out tried hard to impress Nat. I could see they had something, but Nat didn't think so. He sent them off with the advice that they should sing more like the Platters. I related to that lead singer. Disappointment was hanging on him like his oversized pants. As they left the office and started down the hallway, I followed. "Hey, I like you guys a lot," I called out. They all stopped. "You did?" the lead singer said. "Yeah, I thought you were really good." Thanking me, they introduced themselves as Ronnie White, Pete Moore, Bobby Rogers, and his cousin Claudette Rogers. "I'm William Robinson," the lead singer said, "but they call me Smokey. Who are you?" My name is Berry Gordy. Berry Gordy, he said, you write for Jackie Wilson. You wrote To Be Loved and Reed Petite. I know, I said, and asked him who had written their songs. I did. You got any more? Right here, he said, showing me a school notebook full of song lyrics written in pencil. There were about 100 songs in that notebook, and that same day he showed me every single one. I ended up rejecting all of them. But I did assure him he had a wonderful talent for expressing his feelings with poetic, catchy lyrics. As for the songs, I told him that some had clever concepts but missed the point. Others had good hooks, but no real story. And when there were good stories, they weren't unique enough. Other than that, I liked him. I laughed. He laughed louder. That's how it all started between Smokey and me. Our relationship was simple. I wanted to teach, he wanted to learn. He started bringing me songs on a regular basis. I continued to turn them down just as regularly. But I knew it was only a matter of time before he'd come to me with something I'd really like. That day arrived in January of 1958, when he found me with Roquel in an office at Pearl Music. Smokey burst into the room, bubbling with excitement. Barry, he said, man, I've got to see you. Then he whispered, I really got it this time. Staring at him suspiciously, I nodded okay. Then closing his eyes, and in a slow, melodic tone, he started singing. Walked all day till my feet were tired. I was low, I just couldn't get hired. Saw a sign in a grocery store. Help is slight and we need some more. I got a job, sha-da-da-da, sha-da-da-da. I was so excited. I loved it. Smokey had finally come through. An answer song to the #1 song in the country, The Silhouettes' Get a Job. I quickly made a deal with George Goldner to put it out on his N label, and we rushed into the studio to record it. I suggested to Smokey that the Matadors change their name since they had a girl in the group. They placed names in a hat, and Smokey's choice, The Miracles, was pulled. Though it didn't chart high nationally, within a few weeks, Got a Job was one of the hottest records in Detroit, and everyone was asking for The Miracles.
Okay, so that's enough of that. So he tells you, like, his relationship with Smokey, that's how it all starts. People don't understand that Motown's creation starts with the relationship of which happened of Berry Gordy and Smokey Robinson. Okay, there is no... Berry Gordy's a songwriter at that time. He's not, like, developing artist. He's not building a record company. He has visions of it. He has the ideas. He can see, he can understand what's going on, but he's not actually doing it, right? But then he meets Smokey, and this is where it all starts. And so he's hooked. He wants to be the teacher of Smokey. He sees what Smokey can do, that there's greatness in Smokey, right? So, and then they put out that first record, right? And the song comes out in early 1958. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. These are the key moments of where Michael Jackson is conceived. If you actually go back, like I said, when I had that first thought that Diana Ross could be Michael Jackson's mother, I don't know what's going on. I don't know that Smokey's involved. I don't know about the Berry Gordy. I don't know that Diana's sleeping in Smokey's house. I don't know any of that stuff. And if my story was not true, it should not have developed in this kind of way where it explains everything, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like, look at what I found when I actually went and looked to the origins of Michael Jackson. I find out what's taking place in the area of where Diana Ross would have been existing in her life and stuff. And this is what I find is that Diana's in love with Smokey. She's sleeping in his house. That's when Smokey hooked up with Berry Gordy at the exact same time. This is the exact moments of where Michael Jackson was actually conceived in the world. This is what's taking place in Detroit with Diana and Smokey Robinson. And it shows you right there the motives. It shows you the connections with all of them. That Diana's in love with Smokey. She's sleeping in his house. Smokey hooks up with Berry, but Diana can't be in the band because Claudette's in the band. And then Diana is on the verge of moving out of the neighborhood also, right? So what happens? What is she? She sleeps with Smokey. It happened. She had sex with Smokey. She got pregnant. So she's pregnant just in the beginning days of her birth when she's trying to figure, she like might even not know, who knows exactly when she understands that she's pregnant, when that actually happened and all that stuff, right? But we know that Diana hears the song on the radio right at that time too. Now Diana's just about ready to move out of that neighborhood and shit too, right? And so at first, Smokey and Diana's thinking that she's probably going to marry Smokey, right? But then when that story gets to Berry Gordy, when Smokey has to tell Berry Gordy, hey Berry, there's this girl Diana in the neighborhood, and like what it said, that Smokey, that song came out on his 18th birthday, so he just turned 18. So he was 17 when he gets Diana Ross pregnant, but he just turned 18, so he's 18. She's not even 14 yet, because she's about to turn 14 on March 26, right? So she's not even 14, and now Smokey's having to tell Berry Gordy, hey, and Barry's now trying to build this around Smokey. He's trying to build the company, right? So Smokey would have had to tell Berry, I got this girl pregnant. He's like, the real world, what's he doing? He's thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do, right? He's like, I'm thinking, I don't know. Do I have to get a job? Do I got to go to school and get a career because I'm going to be a father now? Because he is not sure. They don't know Motown's out there on the verge of Motown. They don't, they still don't have it. It's not there yet. They're still trying to figure it out. So at that moment in life of what I'm saying, which has happened, is that somewhere they came up with a plan to get rid of the kid. And I think that Berry Gordy's the one that came up with the plan, because I'd have to show you more evidence, but Berry Gordy and Joe Jackson are the same age. And in their lives, what you find out when you go back and trace their history, you find out that they were both fighting in the Golden Gloves at the same time when they were young. And then you find out that they both transitioned into the music scene and stuff, right? And then there's a lot more when you go search that stuff, there's a lot more there. So what I've came to my conclusion is that Berry Gordy knew Joe Jackson. Joe Jackson's music career is over. He's got a house full of children and stuff, right? And he's out of state. But he's friends with Berry Gordy. So Berry Gordy, what I say has happened, that Berry Gordy came up with the plan and told them, hey, look, I know this guy, Joe Jackson, he's got a house full of kids. We can just put Michael right into that house. He'll fit perfectly right into that house with all the kids, and he'll be okay over there, right? And so I think they made that arrangement and they did that deal. And so the other part is here. This is another, now this video, this is actually off of one of my recordings and stuff, right? And so because it's like one of those things, I know where this is at. I know where this piece exists. It's inside the actor's studio, the interview that she's doing. But to go find the actual clip on the actual part, it's harder when I'm trying to build a video. It takes time. I don't have that much time and stuff, right? But Diana Ross, what happens is, Diana Ross's story, when you look in her biography, it says on her 14th birthday, they moved to the Brewster Douglas housing project, and she enrolled into the Cass Tech school, the Cass Tech high school, right? And it always says that she enrolled in Cass Tech to study fashion design. She started studying fashion, but through my investigation, I always said that no, when she went to that school, it's not because that she's going there to study fashion. I'm saying she's going to that school because she's pregnant. There's something that's taking place around her being pregnant. And when she's enrolled in that school, because I'm thinking, because her older sister went to that school, and I think her father even had attended that school. So I think that they got her into that school to say, look, they're still thinking that she's going to be a young mother. And they're starting to train her as a young mother. They're wanting her to get skills as a young mother. That's what my story, through my investigation, I was saying, no, because every bit of what you hear from Diana Ross, when you look at her biography, everything talks about Diana Ross went to Cass Tech to learn fashion design because she transformed into that. But at first, I'm saying that no, when she goes there, it's not because the fashion stuff, it's because she's pregnant. I was saying that was the real reason why she was going there, what the bigger story was going, right? So like I said, that was the theory I had. So then I found this piece of evidence. This is her talking about when she enrolls into Cass Tech. And you'll hear her say, she says, I followed my sister, but she clearly says, her sister became a doctor. And so her sister, she says, my sister is an A student. She went to that school, and she studied the skills to become a doctor. Her sister actually went to get skills and became a doctor. But Diana didn't go to that school because she was wanting to be something like that. That's what I say. No, it's not that. It's that because she was pregnant, and they didn't know what they were thinking she's going to be a young mother, so they enrolled her in that school because of that. So, and then because they say it was fashion, I say no, it wasn't fashion in the beginning. So listen what she says here. It's real big.
What high school did you go to?
I went to Cass Technical High School, which is a great school.
It is. Cass Tech is a famous school.
I followed my sister there because she was an A student, and I wanted to go to the same high school. I was never an A student like she was, and she majored in science, right? And I majored in home economics.
Okay, so see, that's my video I'm talking there. So see, she says she majored in home economics. Okay, so she's like, oh, I wanted to go to that school because my sister went there, and she was an A student, and she majored in science, right? Okay, but Diana didn't go. She tells you she was not an A student. She wasn't going there to study science because she wanted to be a doctor. No, that's not the story. There's something else going on. What I'm saying is that she was pregnant, and so what does she tell you? She enrolled in, what was her major when she enrolled into the school? Home economics. Isn't that the exact courses of where she would be learning of being a young pregnant girl at that time? What would be her course study that she would get from that school that she would enroll into that school? Under what course of study would she be studying if she's a young girl who's pregnant planning to become a mother? What would be her course of study that she would be studying? Home economics. She just told you right there. When she enrolled in her major was home economics. And then so through the home economics, you would learn sewing. And through the sewing skills, then after she abandons the baby, and she's now thinking she's got her focus is on Motown. Now she's thinking, oh, well, this home economics, I'm learning sewing. I can learn how to do fashion design. That's how it spawned into fashion design and stuff, right? Because after she had abandoned her baby and now she's wanting to get to Motown, she's wanting to learn a skill that she could use as being like in a music group and being something in Motown. So it transitions into being fashion design. That's what it transitions. But when you read her biographies, it always just says that she's going fashion design. So nobody ever talked about her enlisting in that school under the pretext of whatever, learning the skills and crafts of being home economics. Nobody's ever talking about her being pregnant and being a young mother. That's never been talked about. But I was always saying that no, the date of when she enrolled in that school, it's still early in her pregnancy, and they probably still have not even figured out what they're going to do. And so she's planning on becoming a mother. She goes to that school, and what she enrolled in, home economics. That would be the course study of where she would be. Her father wanted to take her to that school, and she didn't go to the school to learn the skills of what her sister did. That's not what was going on. She's put into that school by her fucking father because he's saying, you've got to learn some skills now as being a mother. Let's enroll you under the home economics. Those are the skills that you're going to need because you're pregnant, right? So, but then what happens is that Smokey and Berry comes up, says there has to have been a point there that after this moment, like I said, see how these dates are right there, really close to where Michael Jackson is conceived. Under the conception of Michael Jackson, this is what's taking place with these people at that time. And she's young, but you see how it perfectly aligns. Like, dude, all I first had was the original thought, could Diana Ross be Michael Jackson's mom? How come when I went to search that I found all of this? That perfectly aligned with the story of what I'm saying. That it was see, I didn't even know Smokey. She's the one who told me Smokey's the father, because she's telling you that she's in love with him and she's sleeping in his house. Then I find out that it's Smokey that hooked up with Berry Gordy right at that time. That's what gave her, and she's getting ready to move out of the neighborhood. So she hooks up with Smokey and stuff. She gets pregnant. She's thinking she's going to marry Smokey. So she enrolls in that school under the guidance of home economics teaching, because she's planning on being a young mother. But what happens, what she doesn't understand what she did, is that Berry Gordy is trying to build a record company now with Smokey, and Berry Gordy realizes, I can't build my record company with my number one artist and with this scandal lingering right over us, that my number one artist, who's 18, has a kid from a 14-year-old girl in the neighborhood. And remember, these are black artists at the time. They understand that a scandal like that, especially to the black entertainers, that would just crush them in the media. It would destroy everything. And not only would it destroy what they're trying to build, that would ruin that could possibly ruin Berry's reputation of what he already has built up. All right? So Berry's like, well, I got a problem. And Berry wants to work with Smokey, though. He's committed to him. And so Berry's like, dude, we got a problem. So what would they do at that moment when this arises, that Diana Ross is pregnant? What would they have to do? Barry would understand that in order for me to keep working with you, we've got to get rid of that kid. So then when Barry and Smokey go and talk to Diana, and they're like when they're explaining it to her that, look, this is a scandal, we can't allow this to happen, right? Now Diana, because there's got to be a motive for Diana, she's feeling guilty. She understands because she has just heard Smokey's record on the radio. He's big, like I said, it was big locally. That song was a big hit locally, and she understands who Berry Gordy is. So Diana now understands that she has hurt Smokey's chance of becoming a star. Right? But if she gives up her child for not only to assist Smokey, but she's assisting Berry Gordy. If she gives her child up because of the request of what they're making, now she has leverage over them, which is what she did when she rolled into Motown. She's labeled as the boss, Diana Ross, the boss, because she was bossing people around. Because after she had abandoned her child, then Smokey and Berry then have success, and then they develop Motown. Diana's going to Motown. She's going to be a star. She's going to be the lead singer and shit. She's going to make them write songs for her. She's going to push her way around, which is what she did. How did this little girl roll in there with all that strength of pushing these people around and getting them to do what she wanted them to do? Because she had leverage over them. This is how it all happened. This story is real. And you keep going through and you see that how Michael Jackson's, how they developed, that it's headlined with Diana Ross presents the Jackson 5, that you find out that the Jacksons moved to LA and then they're living in Diana Ross's house. You see the relationship with Michael and Diana develop. You see it all. Like Diana Ross ends up in Michael Jackson's will. Michael Jackson gives all of his possessions to his children with guardianship to Catherine, but if Catherine can't fulfill her obligation, then Diana Ross steps into that role, that motherly role, that grandmother role, the guardian over Michael's children. It shows the transition, it shows everything, it's all there. And like I said, I even go further and further into it, where now I've explaining Michael Jackson's songs, where I actually have identified Billie Jean as Diana Ross, and the understanding of the song is that Billie Jean is actually a song about Michael telling about that experience when he moved into Diana Ross's house, and that's when Diana Ross told him the truth, that she was his real mother. That's what the song Billie Jean is about. Michael's the kid in the song. The people, they've misheard the lyrics, and Michael can't tell you the truth. Michael could never come out and tell you, oh, well, Billie Jean, no, you people are not hearing it right. You don't actually understand the bigger picture of what's going on here. And like when Michael would say Billie Jean's about a groupie, yeah, the groupie's Diana Ross, who was being a groupie to Smokey Robinson. See how it fits that too? She was the groupie. And so when he talks about these Billie Jean groupies,